My name's Rachel Donovan, and I'm 39 years old. I've been in the United States Army for almost 13 years now. 3 deployments, 2 commendations for leadership, and 1 Bronze Star tucked away in the back of my sock drawer like a secret I never brag about. I've always been the quiet one in the family. Always. And my older sister, Valerie, never lets me forget it. She's probably still barking orders somewhere, folding sweaters and polishing wine glasses for people she thinks actually matter. Her voice cuts through the brunch table like she's hosting a roast, not celebrating Mom's 65th birthday. The laughter is thin, awkward, everyone unsure whether to join in or change the subject. No one corrects her, of course. She's the one footing the bill for this whole over-the-top shindig. We're at some trendy spot in Alexandria, Virginia. The kind of boutique restaurant that serves everything on cutting boards and smells like white truffle oil and artificial lavender. There are chandeliers that look like spun sugar and wallpaper that probably costs more than I make in a month. Valerie rented the entire venue. Gold-plated name cards, a string quartet, custom menus printed on heavy cardstock. She's wearing a soft coral wrap dress that probably costs more than my entire dress uniform, and she looks beautiful. I'll give her that. She also looks smug. I showed up in my formal blues. Shoes polished, creases perfect, everything by regulation. I wasn't going to wear it. I didn't want to make a scene. But Kara talked me into it. Wear it like armor, she said. Let them see you. Valerie saw me all right. Her eyes narrowed the moment I walked in. She gave me one of those hugs like I was a distant cousin she hadn't seen in years. Polite, cold, empty. Now she's sitting directly across the table, basking in the spotlight she's so used to, surrounded by our aunts and cousins and their husbands, none of whom truly know what I do, and honestly, they've never cared to ask. Valerie's loving every second of reminding them how weird I am. How intense. How I've always chosen war zones over weddings. I've been stateside for 4 months now. Not one person here has asked me how I'm doing, not one. Valerie continues to swirl her mimosa with a long manicured finger, her voice syrupy sweet and sharp like citrus peel. Some people go out and build something, she says. Real estate, a family, something with roots. Not just. She gestures in my direction. Whatever that is. The table chuckles nervously. I tighten my grip around my lemon water glass. My knuckles go white. My throat burns. I think about the IED sweep I led in Helmand Province, the 12 lives saved because I made the right call. I think about the emergency logistics operation I coordinated last year that moved over 90,000 pounds of relief supplies to Ukraine in under 2 days. But I say nothing. I can't. It's all classified, so I do what I always do. I sit there. Quiet. Stoic. Disposable. My mother clears her throat. Valerie, maybe let's. Oh, come on, Valerie laughs. It's a joke. Rachel knows I love her. She smiles at me like a pageant queen. Besides, she probably thinks this is all frivolous, right? She's baiting me. She wants me to break. To cry. To defend myself in front of strangers. I give her nothing, just a calm smile, one I perfected somewhere between Fort Bragg and Baghdad, and just as I'm about to excuse myself from this mess of a family gathering, there's a knock at the tall glass door. Everyone turns. A man stands outside the solarium. Formal military blues. Posture sharp, hat tucked neatly under one arm, a sealed envelope in his left hand. The hostess hurries over, confused, and opens the door. The officer speaks clearly. I'm looking for Staff Sergeant Rachel Donovan. I've been ordered to deliver this in person. The entire room falls still. Forks freeze midair. A glass clinks against a plate. Valerie's smile vanishes. I rise slowly, my heels steady against the marble tile, and walk toward him like I've been summoned for roll call. The officer salutes. I return it without hesitation. Ma'am, he says, his voice lower now, just for me. You're being requested at the Pentagon. Immediate response. Details inside. I nod. Take the envelope and slip it under my arm like I've done 100 times before. Behind me, Silence hangs thick in the air. Valerie's eyes burn holes into my back. I don't turn around. Duty calls, I say evenly. I glance at my untouched plate. Enjoy the truffle eggs. And I walk out. My heels echo across the marble like a countdown. No one speaks, not even her. Growing up in Northern Virginia, the air always carried hints of salt and magnolia. We were never far from the naval base, and fighter jets passed overhead so often we learned to tune them out. But inside our house, the silence had sharp edges. My parents weren't cold, just distant. Dad worked long hours after getting laid off from the shipyard. Mom filled the quiet with church committees and obsessively arranging holiday centerpieces. We didn't talk about feelings. We showed up. We folded towels. We smiled for pictures. In that kind of household, the loudest one always won. Valerie learned that early. She was the firstborn, 2 years older than me, and from the moment she could walk, she knew how to command attention. She had a hairbrush in one hand and a mirror in the other. Adults adored her. She was the principal's favorite, prom queen, student body president. She glowed, and our parents soaked it up like sunshine. I didn't glow. I was the one with scabbed knees and half-filled sketchbooks. I sat in the back seat and didn't complain when Valerie always got the front. I was invisible by 13. When it came time for college, Valerie went to Vanderbilt on a full ride and posted every polished photo like she was starring in a catalog. I went to a small state school in Richmond and quietly joined ROTC during my sophomore year. My parents didn't get it. "You're too smart for the military," my mother said. "Why would you choose something so dangerous?" I didn't know how to explain it to them. I was tired of feeling like a ghost. ROTC gave me structure. It gave me a reason to wake up. A reason to be seen. I commissioned at 22. No one came to the ceremony. They sent a card. A Hallmark one with a pre-printed signature. Valerie, meanwhile, was already building her empire. She moved to D.C., joined a luxury real estate firm, made partner in 6 years. She bought a 2-bedroom condo in Georgetown and an Audi before she hit 30. She dated lawyers, architects, even a guy who was on HGTV once. She threw rooftop parties with expensive charcuterie boards. Every holiday, she came home glowing like a magazine spread, and Mom beamed just watching her walk in. I came home once wearing fatigues, bone-tired after a 14-hour shift at Fort Drum. Valerie looked at me and said, "Hey look, it's G.I. Jane." Mom told her to hush, but Valerie laughed so hard she cried. I didn't come back for 2 years after that. Still, I stayed in. I moved from post to post, Germany, Kuwait, Texas, and back to D.C. I worked in logistics and operations, mostly the kind of stuff that doesn't make it into movies. But it mattered. When a supply route collapsed, when gear didn't arrive where it should, when lives were on the line and someone needed to rebuild the puzzle, I was the one they called. I've pulled people out of messes and vaccines into crisis zones. I've briefed rooms filled with brass, some twice my age, some who couldn't pronounce my last name, who learned over time that when I said something, it was worth listening to. But none of that ever translated at home. At home, I was just Rachel, the one in the army. Valerie used to introduce me like that, too, with a fake laugh. "This is my sister. She's in the military or whatever. Yeah, she's kind of intense." She made me sound like a novelty. Something to bring out at parties to shake things up, and every time, I smiled. I let it roll off. Because I'd been trained not to show weakness, not to let things rattle me. And maybe, just maybe, I believed her. Maybe I really did think that all I was a uniform. That was before Hellmand. Before the blackout. Before the satellite link died and I had to make a call that would break protocol, but save 12 people from walking into an ambush. The report read violation of procedure. My CO reprimanded me on paper. Then quietly recommended me for a commendation. That's how it works sometimes. On the books, you're wrong, but in the real world, you just saved lives. I didn't tell anyone in my family. Not even Kara. It didn't feel like something they'd understand. People think soldiers are either Rambo or background noise. I was neither, just someone who showed up every day, did her job, and knew that the details were often invisible, until they weren't. Eventually, I landed back in DC, this time working joint logistics. My role shifted, fewer boots on the ground, more planning, more strategy. I help coordinate supplies, assets, and emergency responses across multiple agencies. I see things on screens before the world hears about them. I get briefed on disasters before they become headlines. If I don't move fast, someone dies. But even with that kind of pressure, at brunch, I'm still the weird one. The intense one. The sister who chose. Whatever this is, when Mom called about Valerie's birthday brunch, she said, "It would mean a lot if you came. Just try to get along." So I tried, I showed up. Polished. Presentable. Smiling, and Valerie did what she always does, reminded everyone that I'm the one who made the strange choice, but this time. Something shifted, because someone else had noticed. That officer showing up at brunch wasn't just a plot twist. It was validation. Not just for me, but for everyone who's ever sat at a table full of family and felt like a ghost. I sat down on my cheap IKEA couch, the one I've dragged with me across 3 duty stations, and looked around the room. The walls. The quiet, and then I remember standing on the sidewalk afterward, envelope in hand. The air was crisp. Autumn in Virginia always smells like oak leaves and something nostalgic. I hadn't even opened the orders yet. I didn't need to, I knew what they were: recognition. A medal. A classified debrief. Something serious enough to warrant a personal delivery. Serious enough to interrupt Valerie's picture-perfect event, but instead of feeling proud, I felt sick, not because of the content of the letter, but because of what I hadn't done. Once again, I'd walked away without saying a word. I'd let Valerie talk over me. Make a spectacle out of me. Like always, and I said nothing. Later that night, I sat in my car in the driveway, engine off, just staring out the windshield. I could still picture the restaurant, the chandeliers, the white tablecloths, the moment the room turned toward me in shock. I imagined them whispering as I left, "What was that about? She's really in the army? I thought she just did admin work." No one would ask me. They'd ask Valerie, and she'd probably smirk and say, "She's dramatic like that." That's the thing about people like her, they write the story for you. If you don't speak up, they narrate your whole life for you. The next morning, the messages started coming in. "Uncle Jim, that was wild. Proud of you, kid. Mom, sweetheart, was everything okay yesterday? Valerie, you could have given us a heads up." It didn't need to be a scene. I didn't answer hers, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I had too much to say. Valerie and I used to be close, at least I thought we were. We shared a bedroom until high school. She taught me how to do eyeliner, and I helped her cheat on chemistry homework. We used to stay up late and whisper about who we were going to be one day. Then she became a brand, and I became a shadow. She posted filtered selfies from South Beach, while I bunked through sandstorms in Djibouti. She got featured in DC Real Estate Weekly, and I spent 6 weeks off-grid in a mobile unit without cell service, and every time we came home, the gap grew. At first, I tried to bridge it. I brought her souvenirs. Asked her about her job. Laughed at her stories, but she never once asked about mine, and slowly, I stopped offering. She made it clear, my world was one she didn't want to hear about. Anyway, she'd interrupt. "Enough war stuff. Tell me something fun." She'd say, "Why don't you just get a normal desk job?" So, I stopped talking. I told her what she wanted to hear. Nothing. The final straw came last Christmas. It was just the 4 of us. Sitting around the fireplace. Lights low, sipping overpriced wine Valerie brought in from Napa. We were halfway through the usual small talk when she raised her glass and said, "To Rachel, still dodging bullets and boyfriends." Mom chuckled politely. Dad said nothing, and I just blinked. Later that night, I found her alone in the kitchen. "Why do you do that?" I asked her. "Do what?" "Talk about me like I'm a joke." She tilted her head, all wide-eyed. "Oh, come on. Don't be so sensitive." Then she added, "It's not like anyone really gets what you do, anyway." And that was it. That was the point. She liked it that way. because mystery makes people uncomfortable, and when people are uncomfortable, they keep their distance. Which meant she got to control the narrative, but the truth is, I'm not a joke, I'm not an oddity or some cautionary tale, I'm a woman who chose a life most people wouldn't, and I'm good at it. The hardest part about all of this wasn't the combat zones or the briefings or even the long nights alone in unfamiliar countries. It was that, after all that, I still wanted her to see me. After everything I'd done, I still wanted Valerie to look at me and think, she matters. But she didn't, she never did. A few nights after that brunch, I was sitting on Kara's couch, eating takeout tacos and drinking cheap beer from the bottle, our ritual when the world feels too heavy to carry alone. She's one of the few people who knows both versions of me, the soldier and the woman underneath the uniform. You know what I hate about Valerie? She asked suddenly. You've never even met her, I replied, raising an eyebrow. I don't need to. I've heard her in your silences. That one hit hard. Then she added, you let her talk like she owns the room. But one day, you're gonna walk into a room, and they'll already be waiting for you. I didn't tell her about the officer who'd shown up at brunch. I didn't have to, she could feel it. Like she always does, she tilted her head and asked, gently, did it happen? I nodded. She didn't press. She just smiled and passed me another taco. 3 days later, I found myself standing in the Pentagon, outside a secure briefing room. My uniform was crisp. My ribbon bar straight. My heart pounding. The medal hadn't even been pinned yet. It was still in the box they'd handed me. The room was cold. Not in temperature, but in atmosphere. It had that sterile hum that only federal buildings seem to master. Around me were 15 or so people, most of them senior officers, a couple civilians in suits, one photographer snapping quiet shots for internal records. They wouldn't share them publicly. Good. I didn't want applause. I just wanted to remember. They talked for a while. Briefing summaries, satellite images, operations data. My contribution was mentioned near the end, wedged between protocol slides and recovery timetables, rapid tactical restructuring of convoy routes during high-risk blackout conditions. That's what they called it, clean. Technical. Almost sterile. What it really meant was, I made a call in the dark and saved a dozen lives. They called my name. I stood tall, heart racing, body steady. I'd sat through mortar fire with less adrenaline. They pinned the medal on me. The general shook my hand. You made the right call, Sergeant. We don't forget that. I nodded. Swallowed the lump rising in my throat. Smiled, because that's what we do. Afterward, I didn't go out to celebrate. Kara offered, of course. She even had a bottle of something bubbly waiting in the fridge, but I said no. I wanted to be alone. I went home. Took off the uniform. Set the metal case on the kitchen counter. And I just stared at it. It looked beautiful, and also a little hollow. I cried, for the first time in years. Not when I missed my mom's birthday in Doha. Not when I lost my bunkmate to a fluke training accident. Not even when my ex-fiancé sent me a typed breakup letter because he couldn't keep waiting on a woman who might not come back. But now, with the silence, the ribbon, the weight pressing on my chest, I wept, because Valerie was right about one thing. I had become invisible. Not to my team. Not to the people who really knew me, but to my own family. They wouldn't even understand what the medal meant. They'd assume it was just for showing up, like some participation trophy from high school, and that's what stung the most, that I still wanted her, to care. Later that evening, I opened my laptop. Buried beneath memos and unread briefings was an email I hadn't seen before. Subject line: Women in Leadership, DoD Feature Profile Request. A civilian journalist embedded with the Department of Defense had been compiling interviews with mid-level female officers making significant impact in defense strategy. Someone had nominated me anonymously. Would I be willing to participate? I read it 4 times. I almost deleted it. What would I even say? That I've spent over a decade building systems no one sees? That my own sister thinks I'm just someone who dodges bullets and deadlines? I got up. Poured myself a glass of water. Walked into the bathroom. Turned on the light, and looked at myself, not the uniform. Not the role, just me, the woman behind all of it. The face was tired. Lined around the eyes. Jaw set. Mouth pressed thin. I looked like someone who had seen too much, and said too little, and then, softly, like a secret, I whispered to my reflection, I matter. It felt foreign on my tongue. Like I wasn't sure if I believed it. So I said it again, I matter. Still quiet. Still unsure, again, eventually. Something changed in the mirror, not dramatically, but enough. I wasn't the girl in my sister's shadow anymore. I wasn't just the one in uniform. I was Rachel Donovan. Staff sergeant. Leader. Survivor. Builder, and whether or not my family ever saw it, my life meant something. I didn't answer the email that night. I wasn't ready, but I opened a drawer and pulled out an old leather notebook. The kind I used to scribble half-finished thoughts in when I was deployed, and I started to write, not a speech, not a resume, a letter, to Valerie. I didn't know if I'd ever send it, but I wrote everything I'd never said. All the ways I'd been erased, the pain behind the smiles, the pride I had to bury. I wrote about how I chose this life, not because I wanted attention, but because it made me feel real, and how all I'd ever wanted from her was for her to stop talking over me. When I finished, I folded the pages neatly, slipped the letter into the inside pocket of the same uniform I wore to the brunch. I don't know why, maybe I just needed to carry the truth with me, physically, for once, not hidden behind clearances and codes, not buried beneath silence. A week later, I stood on the metro platform, uniform pressed, boots shined, waiting for the orange line into D.C. I was on my way to meet the Department of Defense PR team. I'd said yes to the interview, eventually. After the fear settled. After Kara gave me one of her quiet, knowing looks and said, "They didn't pick you by accident." The interview room wasn't what I expected. No big lights or stage. Just a white-walled conference space, 2 cameras on tripods, a ring light, and a boom mic hanging above like a sleeping hawk. The woman running the interview introduced herself as Sasha, mid-40s, calm, no nonsense, a soft kind of strength in the way she asked her questions. She started with basics. My rank. My job. Why I chose this life, and I answered, simply, honestly. Logistics, I said. Strategy. Operations. I make sure the right people get the right things at the right time. Because if they don't, people get hurt. Then, about 30 minutes in, she asked, "What's something you wish people understood about your job?" I looked down for a second, and then I said it, that it's not about the medals, I said, or the discipline. It's about showing up, even when no one claps. Especially then. Sasha didn't say anything. Just gave me space, so I kept talking. I told her about the deployments. The radios that never stopped buzzing. The convoys that almost didn't make it. The choices I had to make when the silence on the line stretched too long, and then, without even meaning to, I talked about Valerie. I didn't say her name, just said, sometimes the hardest part isn't out there. It's coming home and realizing no one knows how to talk to you. So they either ignore you or turn you into a joke. Sasha's eyes didn't waver. And what do you want to say to those people? I didn't blink. I'm not asking you to understand me, I said. I'm asking you to stop dismissing me. When the cameras stopped, Sasha reached over and placed a hand gently on my arm. That was brave, she said. You don't know how many women will watch this and feel seen. And in that moment, it clicked. I didn't need Valerie to see me anymore. I just needed to stop erasing myself in rooms because of her. That evening, I got a notification on my phone. A clip from the interview had gone live. 5 minutes, no music, no dramatic cuts. Just me, and my voice. It wasn't a spotlight, it was a kind of justice. 2 days later, I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from in over a decade. Erin Washington, high school friend, debate partner, future CEO even back then. She'd taken the corporate route, now a VP at a logistics firm in Atlanta. She wrote, "Rach, I saw your interview. Didn't know you were doing this kind of work. You always had that fire. Proud of you." That message meant more than any ceremony I'd ever stood through. Because it reminded me that my story carried, even when I wasn't trying to tell it. The following Saturday, I found myself standing in front of a sleek condo building in Georgetown. Valerie's building, I hadn't told her I was coming. I didn't even know if I was going to follow through until I was standing there. Palms sweaty, letter tucked in my coat pocket, I rang the bell. She opened the door in yoga pants and a robe, sipping from a coffee mug that said, "Closing deals breaking hearts." When she saw me, her eyes widened. "Rachel," she said, half a smile forming. "You're not in uniform. That's a first." I didn't flinch. "I need 10 minutes, I said. "No jokes. No performances. Just us." She hesitated, then stepped aside. Her apartment was immaculate, of course. All brushed golds and soft grays. Magazine ready. Even her kitchen island looked like it had never seen a splash of sauce. I sat on the edge of her couch and handed her the letter. She looked down at it, confused. "What is this?" "My silence," I said, "on paper." I didn't speak while she read it. Her eyes scanned fast at first, then slower. Her mouth pressed into a line. By the time she hit the second page, her hands were trembling just a little. She didn't cry, Valerie never cries, but when she folded the letter shut, her voice was quiet. "I didn't know." I nodded. "I know. I thought I was being funny." "You weren't. I didn't think you cared." "I cared every time." Her eyes dropped to the floor. "I'm sorry." The words felt stiff, like she wasn't used to saying them. "But they were real," I nodded. "Me too. For not saying something sooner." We didn't hug, we didn't patch up a lifetime in a single moment. But we talked, really talked, and maybe that's all healing is, not fixing it all. Just stopping the damage. On my way out, she called after me. "If that officer at Brunch was here about something classified," she said with a faint grin, "you don't have to tell me." "I get it." Then she smirked, "Figures. You always were kind of a badass." I turned at the door. Met her eyes. "I'm not just anything anymore." 2 weeks later, the next invitation came, another brunch. Bigger this time. Valerie's hosting it on her rooftop for a colleague's birthday. A crowd full of real estate power players, influencers, and a few DC elite types who never pass up a photo op. The invite came as a text. Casual, Saturday, 11 a.m. rooftop. Food, drinks, good vibes. Bring someone. Hope you can make it. I stared at it for a while. Cara leaned over my shoulder. "You going?" "I don't know," I said. "You don't owe her anything." "I know." "Then why do you already look like you said yes?" I didn't answer, but she was right. I was already picturing it. Not to prove anything, not this time. I just wanted to stand in that room and not shrink. The morning of the event, I didn't wear my uniform. That would have been too easy. Too much armor. Instead, I wore a charcoal jumpsuit. Clean lines. Hair pulled back in a low braid. No flash, no pretense. Just sharp. Focused. Ready. I arrived 15 minutes late. Enough to avoid the awkward small talk, but not so late that it made a statement. The rooftop was packed. About 30 people, all nursing cocktails and clinking glasses over a playlist Valerie probably hand-curated herself. She was by the bar when I arrived. Laughing with 2 guys in tailored suits, she spotted me, straightened a little, then smiled, and this time it felt real, no spotlight. No smirk, just a smile. I nodded back, and walked in like I belonged, because now, I finally believed that I did. I stood by the railing, looking out across the city. The Capitol dome glimmered in the distance, quiet and steady, like a heartbeat beneath all the noise. From up there, DC felt small. Manageable. Like maybe there was room for me in it after all. I didn't rush to greet people. I didn't need to. Some folks glanced my way, a few whispered, probably remembering the brunch story. The sister. The soldier. The one with the surprise military delivery that brought everything to a screeching halt. I didn't mind, let them wonder. Valerie made her way over eventually, a glass of something pink in her hand. Her earrings caught the sunlight, sparkling like she knew they would. "Didn't think you'd come," she said, Neither did I. She looked me over. You look good. I smirked. No camo today. She chuckled. I've been thinking about that day. The brunch? Yeah. She hesitated, then looked away for a beat. I shouldn't have said what I said. About your job. About you. I let the silence stretch. She filled it. I didn't get it, Rachel. I really didn't. But I watched that interview. The one they posted. You looked so steady. Like nobody in that room could shake you. I turned my eyes back to the skyline. They can't. Not anymore. She stepped a little closer, lowering her voice. Can I ask you something? I nodded. That officer, at brunch, what was that about? I didn't answer right away. Then I smiled, just slightly. They sent him because I was being recognized. For rerouting a convoy mid-blackout. 12 soldiers are alive because of it. The Pentagon wanted the delivery to be formal. Not everyone gets that. She blinked. Why didn't you say anything? I looked at her. Because if I had, you would have turned it into a joke. She didn't argue. Just swallowed hard, and then something shifted in her face. Not guilt, not pity, but something close to awe. If I had done that, she said softly, I'd never shut up about it. I laughed. That's the difference between us. She laughed too. And for once, it didn't sting. Just then, a man approached us. Silver hair, linen shirt, confident gait. Valerie straightened a bit. He looked at me and grinned. Whitney didn't tell me her sister was that Rachel Donovan, he said. I blinked. I'm sorry. James Pelton. Retired DHS. I run a security consulting firm now. We just studied your Kandahar reroute last quarter. Your name came up more than once. That was masterful. He held out his hand. I shook it, stunned. Thank you. You ever think about post-service work? He continued. We've got a spot opening up. High clearance strategist. You'd be a hell of an asset. I didn't respond right away. I looked at Valerie instead. She wasn't smirking. She wasn't laughing. She was speechless. For once. I'll think about it, I told him. He nodded and walked away. Valerie looked at me like she was really seeing me for the first time, not her sister. Not a side character, a force. That moment didn't undo the years behind us. But it rewrote the narrative. It gave me something I never had in her world, a voice louder than hers. I stayed another hour, maybe 2. I didn't hide in the corner. I spoke with people who'd never given me the time of day before. Not because I was trying to impress them. But because I didn't need to disappear anymore. At one point, someone leaned over and asked, "What do you actually do in the military?" I didn't brush it off. I didn't make it palatable. I just said, I build the invisible systems that keep people alive. They blinked. Then nodded. That night, I didn't write another letter. I didn't need to. The confrontation had already happened, not just with Valerie, with myself. 3 months later, I was back on base. Same gravel paths, same early morning bugle calls, same beat-up radio squawking at 0600 sharp, but everything felt different, because I was different. Not in some cinematic, slow-motion kind of way. Real change doesn't announce itself with music cues. It's quiet, it's small, it's steady, like standing a little taller in your own story. The letter I wrote to Valerie, I never gave it to her again. She didn't need it. Instead, I kept it folded inside my uniform jacket. Not out of bitterness, but as a reminder of how far I'd come. The version of me who wrote those words, she was tired, buried, apologetic. She doesn't exist anymore. A few weeks after that brunch, James Pelton's firm sent me a formal job offer. Strategy consulting. Travel optional. Pay excellent. High impact work. And people who understood what I'd done, and why it mattered. Kara and I celebrated over tacos and a bottle of wine we couldn't pronounce. She raised her glass and said, "To whatever comes next. And to never letting your silence speak louder than your presence again." I didn't cry, I just smiled. That's how I celebrate now. I haven't told Valerie about the job yet. She knows I'm transitioning out, but not the details. And for once, I don't feel the need to explain. Some bridges don't need traffic both ways. But we talk, now and then, surface level, cordially, sometimes, even kindly. She sent me an article last month with a short note. This sounds like something you'd crush. It was about women leading cybersecurity at NASA. I laughed out loud. Progress, sometimes. I still remember the way she looked across the table that day at brunch. The way she rolled her eyes when she said I had a flexible job. The burn in my chest that followed, but I remember it like an old injury now, faded. Closed, no longer tender to the touch. What stays with me more is everything that happened after. The medal, the interview, the man on the rooftop who knew my name before I ever said it, the people who reached out, not because of who I was to my family, but because of who I was on my own. That's the biggest change of all. I no longer measure my worth by Valerie's standards. I don't shrink in her presence. I'm not the sister who chose the strange life. I'm the woman who chose her life, and that's more than enough. The photo from the Pentagon ceremony sits on a small shelf in my apartment, not framed, not spotlighted, just there. Next to it is my notebook, the one I wrote the letter in. It's half full now. Pages of thoughts I don't plan to share. Not because they're secret, because they're mine. One morning, I walked past that shelf with a coffee in one hand and a towel wrapped around my hair, and I caught my reflection in the glass. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't see someone waiting to be recognized. I saw someone already whole. A few days ago, I got another email, this time from a college student who'd seen my interview online. She wrote, "I've never met someone who made silence sound like strength. Thank you for reminding me that I don't have to be loud to take up space." I read it once, then again, and then I closed my laptop and sat there, still, not smiling. Not crying, just knowing that somewhere out there, another girl is stepping into a room for the first time, shoulders back, eyes forward, ready to be misunderstood, maybe ignored, maybe mocked, but still walking forward, and maybe, just maybe, she'll remember that someone else once did it too, and she didn't shrink, she stood.